Okay, the H1B guy here, and today the H1B guy live, January 19th, 2022, covering Biden's changes to immigration in 2022, H1B passive income, and taking your questions and comments. But before we get started, I'd like to ask you, if you haven't already, to please subscribe to the H1B Guy channel here on YouTube and like this video so that I can continue to produce more content like this for you. I also wanted to mention the H1B Guy offers a variety of consulting services. I help businesses and individuals solve complex work authorization issues in the recruitment strategy while bringing awareness to employment based immigration benefits. If I can help you, please reach out. I'd love to hear how. And you can book an appointment directly with me via the h1bguy.com. Today's live stream is brought to you by Syndesis and Path to Canada, the ideal plan B for high skilled immigrants currently located in the US whose status may be uncertain, and by PERM-ads.com, the industry leader in providing a seamless experience for employers and immigration attorneys navigating the complex PERM recruitment ad phase of the labor certification process. Well, wanted to jump in here this afternoon and do kind of a midweek live stream here today. It's been a couple of weeks right around the end of the year since we last did a live stream broadcast. So wanted to take some time out here today and do a little bit of coverage on some articles from last week, some news that I didn't get a chance to cover, some news that's come out this week, and overall just kind of discuss a question that I've been getting kind of frequently. And I had somebody reach out to me via Instagram. When we went back and forth on this topic a good bit, and thought it might be a good segment for some content here on this channel, and that's H1B passive income. But before we jump into that, and before we get into Biden's immigration changes for 2022, I saw earlier in the week that USCIS came out and said that they would be accepting dates of filing for the February 2022 visa bulletin. If we remember, moved up to a good amount. I think we're in September now of 2013 for those dates of filing. And the last time, if I'm remembering correctly, I think it was 2020, February of 2020, was the farthest that USCIS accepted dates of filing to my recent memory. I'm sure that that some of you out there may recall something that maybe is more recent. But during that October, November, December 2019, and then January, February of 2020, dates of filing, I believe, were used over those 5 months, which was one of the longer periods. We've seen that now happen again this year. And when you look at some of the movement that's happened, it tells me that in the next 6 to 9 months, if we don't see any retrogression over the next 6 to 9 months, that September 2013 will find itself in final action. But I thought that was an interesting move. It was a question that several of you and I have been going back around is, are they going to use dates of filing again in February? I was 50-50 on it. I lean towards final action. Generally, it to me, it feels like USCIS uses dates of filing in Q1. But here we are in the second month of Q2, and dates of filing are again being utilized. So I thought that was really interesting. So I wanted to jump to an article or paper that was put out on January 11th, 2022. by Jens Manuel Krogstad and Ana Gonzalez Barea for Pew Research. Uh, the article is titled Key Facts About U.S. Immigration Policies and Biden's Proposed Changes. And it gets into a lot of different aspects of it, but I just wanted to cover some of the points from the employment-based green card section where it says, quote, in fiscal year 2019, the U.S. government awarded more than 139,000 employment-based green cards to foreign workers and their families. The Biden administration's proposed legislation could boost the number of employment-based green cards, which are capped at about 140,000 per year. The proposal would allow the use of unused visa slots from previous years and allow spouses and children of employment-based visa holders to receive green cards without counting them against the cap. These measures could help clear the large backlog of applicants. The proposed legislation would eliminate the per country cap that prevents immigrants from any single country to account for more than 7% of green cards issued each year. Earlier in the year, I covered an article that Stuart Anderson had posted in Forbes from, the NFAP, where he talked about some of these potential changes. When I read this piece from Pew, it feels like the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021 and not as much the provisions that were hotly debated and contested in the Build Back Better, and even some form of the Eagle Act. I mean, this text right here from Pew really feels like, to me, it reads straight from the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021. Again, if we remember, that was day one legislation for the Biden administration. That text was submitted by Senator Menendez from New Jersey, and really championed part of their big overall immigration reform and plans for their first 100 days. And then we really never saw anything happen from that. So here Pew's really kind of going back to the well, if you will, and talking about that text that we've covered multiple times. But again, I think, to me, the question continues to be, what's the Biden administration's plan? What action do they plan to take? What legislative action? What executive action? What are they going to do about this growing issue, this green card backlog, this issue that is created by the 7% country caps? So it'll be interesting to see, but again, not really a whole lot new here. The question is when, not really what, because this information is information that we've had, and I really don't find it to be anything really new from Pew. So moving on to the section about H1B visas, it said, quote, in fiscal year 2019, more than 188,000 high-skilled foreign workers received H1B visas. H1B visas accounted for 22% of all temporary visas for employment issued in 2019. This trailed only the H2A visa for agricultural workers, which accounted for nearly a quarter, 24% of temporary visas. In all, nearly 2 million H1B visas were issued from fiscal years 2007 to 2019. The Biden administration is expected to review policies that led to increased denial rates of H-1B visa applications under the Trump administration. In addition, Biden has delayed implementing a rule that would put in place by Trump that sought to prioritize H-1B visa selections based on wages, which would have raised the wages of H-1B recipients overall. Biden also proposed legislation to provide permanent work permits to spouses of H-1B visa holders. By contrast, the Trump administration had sought to restrict these permits. The Trump administration also created an electronic registration system that led to a record number of applicants for fiscal year 2021. So again, kind of going back to some of that U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021 language, where you see Biden proposed legislation to provide permanent work permits to spouses of H-1B visa holders. We saw that text included in the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021. I thought the data here around the 2019 numbers was interesting. When you look at 22% of all temporary visas were H1Bs, yet 24% of all temporary visas was H2As. So that temporary agricultural visa. We also see the H2B visa, but again, those two visas right there combined for 46% of all temporary work visas issued in 2019. Over that 12-year period, 2007 to 2019, you see 2 million H1B visas were issued. I think that that's interesting. However, the context of the wage rule, uh, meaning the wage selection for the lottery, and then the wage rule that looked to increase, the various wage levels. To me, those appear to be a thing of the past. But again, it's brought up here, so it'll be interesting to see how it is handled. I've heard many times over that the Biden administration does support some sort of wage level increase. I've also heard that they do support some sort of wage based selection. So again, how these things play out as we head into 2022 now. Going to be interesting knowing we're in a midterm election year. Uh, I really don't feel like we're gonna see a lot of changes in terms of any of these things that are being referenced by Pew. Hopefully, I'm wrong in that regard. Again, I think we go back to what the root cause, one of the constant themes that we've had here on this platform, and what's created the backlog that, as of right now, is somewhere between, um, you know, 3,300 to 3,800 days, depending on the fluctuation. When you do that math, that's a 10-year time frame. Again, I think that the awareness is there, the reluctancy to do something about it in their first year, I think is very concerning. I mean, when you look at, we're coming up on a year almost since the inauguration. So again, we look at what's happening within immigration, where the focus is. Seems like the priorities surrounding the voting rights has taken precedent, and rightfully so. But when, right? I think that continues to be the question. I saw something earlier today I thought was pretty interesting, that talked about individual press conferences in their first year in office. And President Biden had the least of the previous four presidents, and least by well over half. So again, this administration appears to want to really work from internally and within. Has been very secretive and very non-committal to a lot of the questions that have been posed to them from an immigration point of view. Specifically around the green card backlog, around documented and undocumented dreamers, around processing delays. So we'll see what happens here. I think the next couple of months are going to be really interesting in that regard. Just wanted to ask you, if you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed to the H1B Guy channel here on YouTube. Like this video, and click the bell for notifications so that you're notified anytime we do go live, like we have here today, on January 19th at 4 p.m. Eastern. If you're looking for ways that you can support the H1B Guy platform, you can do so through the super chat function here on YouTube. If you are listening or watching on a podcast or a later episode, you can also do so through buymeacoffee.com/the H1B Guy. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to post those in the chat. I've got a couple of more things I wanted to discuss, and then if there are any questions or comments, we'll get to those towards the end of the stream. Wanted to thank everyone who's taken the time here to join me today. Everyone who sent me questions and comments, words of encouragement over the last couple of weeks. I just really appreciate your support. The fact that you take time to reach out to me and provide those words of encouragement. Thank you so much. I can't do it without you. Can't do it without your support. So I wanted to move into a question I've been getting a good bit, and in the past I have covered um, a few different things around dual H1Bs, H1B entrepreneurship, and the 49% equity. Um, Covered some of those things a good bit, and I will tell you that this question I think is interesting because it's around passive income on H1B. So one of the things that I've found historically speaking, in folks that I've worked with that do come to the U.S. on an H1B visa, they're in search of an opportunity, a better quality of life, and honestly, a maximization of their earnings potential, i.e., income. Those are some traits, historically speaking, that I've seen, and I think that that goes hand in hand with the question around H1B passive income. And so the question that was posed to me was pretty direct, that was you know asking me about the possibility of an H1B visa holder creating income via Airbnb or Turo. I wasn't familiar with Turo until this, but it is a car rental platform similar to the Airbnb concept. And I think that that's a great strategy when you look at the possibility of maybe you own a home, you want to rent out a room, or even considering multiple properties and renting those out. But I'll say this: there are plenty of other sites out there that are way more qualified to discuss this and how to make this work. I'm sure most of you have seen or watched some of their content before. But I think that my 2 cents here is I just wanted to discuss this briefly because I think it's relevant, and I think the biggest thing that we talk about here for those of you living and working here on H1B visa, I think the biggest thing that I want to instill in you is that how important it is for you to maintain your status. I hope that's one of the things that this platform here helps you do, is to maintain your status. And so I wanted to talk about this because there could be a possibility through passive income turning into productive income where you could jeopardize your H1B status. So I thought it was worth at least talking about just for a few minutes here today. So the conclusion I came to is that the answer is yes. You can be an H1B visa holder and create income via rental, Airbnb or Turo. But the biggest thing is that the rental properties or the car rental in this case are allowed as long as they are considered passive income. The other catch is that you are not allowed to individually broker the rental. Um, as I mentioned as well, it cannot be considered productive income. That means you're actively buying properties and renting them out as part of a productive income, meaning not a supplemental income to your current employment, but actual productive income, i.e., more than you're probably making on an H1B visa. So I interpret this to say that it's okay. Um, and I would imply that it's fine if you do buy a property on H1B visa outside of a property that you already own, or a car as a rental investment. Again, though, you cannot facilitate the rental. I think that that's a really big piece of this. So you need to use like a broker, like an Airbnb or a Turo or a rental agency of some sort. So it's got to be done by a third party. However, I think the but here is that owning multiple properties or cars, to continue the comparison, and listing them via Airbnb or Turo or using a third party rental site, could lend itself to be considered more of a productive income. So, again, this is my opinion. I am not providing legal advice here in any way, shape, or form. If you need that, you need to consult with an attorney. But I believe that you'll be fine as long as you're looking at one or two properties here, or one or two cars. But I think any more than that, and if the property is very popular and creates a lot of income for you, it may begin to create the assumption that it's productive income, and you don't want to jeopardize your H1B. That is the most important thing here. Okay. So I'll close out by saying this. I haven't personally used Turo, but I've used Airbnb, I've used Verbo, and I've used HomeAway many times to a fair amount of success. My best advice here, and when considering H1B passive income, is again to make sure that you do not jeopardize your H1B status, while also choosing your investment portfolio and your passive income strategies wisely. I think there's great opportunities for H1Bs out there to create passive income, to create good investments. And the reason being is when you look at how H1Bs are paid, right? Um, you know, the compensation that they receive on average, we're talking about fairly high net earners. And so, there is a great opportunity then for individuals like that to create income streams via investments, good investment portfolio strategies. Again, there's other sites out there that are much more suited to have this conversation, but I did want to briefly mention it. That's my interpretation of the way it works. If you know otherwise, I'd love to hear from you. Um, so, did want to mention, if you do have questions or comments, please drop those in the chat. I've got a couple right now. We'll be getting to those in a minute or two here. I also wanted to mention again, if you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the H1B Guy channel here on YouTube. Click the bell for notifications so that you're notified anytime we do go live here on this channel. If you're looking for ways you can support the H1B Guy platform, you can do so through the super chat function here on YouTube. If you're watching this or listening to this in podcast form at a later time or here on YouTube, you can do so through buymeacoffee.com/the H1B Guy. So really appreciate all of you taking the time here to jump in with me this afternoon. If you have questions, post those in the chat and I will get to them starting now. Hey, SNK_92. Thanks for joining me here today. Nice to see you. What will happen to H1B online registration system in 2022? That's a great question. I actually covered this pretty recently, and that is to say, it appears to me that there are no changes. It will be another random electronic selection process. I've been, predicting March 7th through March 25th is when the portal would be open. But I had a follower here on YouTube reach out to me in the comments section that mentioned that they had received some notification via my USCIS account that they could begin registering and applying. The window was February 24th through March 1st, which leads me to believe that March 1st date may be accurate, which I think is interesting when we look at the scheme of the date and how the calendar falls in March. So, excuse me. If we look at March from a holistic point of view, March 1st is a Tuesday. So that very likely could be a possibility that would be day one. And if that were the case, they may run it all the way through the 25th and then open up the portal either on April 1st or April 4th. Okay. Again, going back to, my sort of initial guesstimate, which is, March 7th through March 25th, that timeline would still hold accurate, where we'd be looking at something very similar. Again, opening up on Friday, April the 1st or Monday, April the 4th, um, as possibilities. But again, no changes from the perspective of electronic selection. Um, it will be electronic random selection. There's really no wage based to it at all. That has now become a thing of the past and gone the way of the former Trump administration. So, yep. Hey, thanks for jumping in. I appreciate it. SNK_92. Hey, sweet seller, how are you? What is the schedule for your live shows? That's a great question. I don't have one. Typically, I do try to stream on Wednesdays once I've completed obligations with a couple of my clients that I do a fair amount of work for. Um, with that being said, over the next couple of weeks, probably we'll do another stream towards the end of January on Wednesday. If I'm looking at a calendar to try to get a feel for an exact day, probably, well, if we look at when that breaks down, that would be the 26th or February 2nd. So that'll probably put my next stream around February the 9th. Just kind of looking at the calendar. So probably February 9th. I may do one the following week too, just to have a couple of live streams in February. And then looking ahead, I'm going to have tentatively scheduled to have uh, Mark Palopoulos and Daniel Mandelbaum on April the 8th to discuss those who had failed lottery cases and what their options are. But appreciate the question. Definitely trying to be more consistent in that. For the most part, streams have been on Wednesdays. The time does vary, anywhere between 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the latest I've done it in a while. I wanted to try a 4 o'clock here today. I know I've got a fair amount of folks that are on the West Coast that do check me out. So, thanks for the question. Nice to see you, and appreciate all of your support. Hey Ashish, how are you? Your PD of March 2013 and downgraded last year. Now you have EB3, EAD, and AP. If my date becomes current in the next month, what is your feeling when EB3 March 2013 will be current? It's a great question, and you're one of the many, who kind of has gone through this. I think that, it's one of those things where you took the chance, right, and you hope that it pays off. But to give you the short answer, again, I think my best guess is October of this year. I say that because October of this year, I don't expect any movement for EB3 for India for the remainder of the year, and that's based on simply the demand outweighs the number allocation. So I don't think these dates are going to advance at all over the next several months. Hopefully, that is proved to be wrong, but for right now, that's just how I'm foreseeing it. Um, the good news, though, for you, if there is a sliver of hope, is that you do have an EAD with AP. You have some freedom right now. Um, you can choose who you work for and how much you're paid at the least, I think, right now. And you have that freedom of travel. I don't know if you've activated that or if you're still working under H1B. I know that's a topic that comes up a good bit. I've always advised to work under the H1B until it expires. Um, and not utilize that EAD AP unless you absolutely have to. But thanks for your question. Again, I'm assuming for EB3 March 2013, best guess is October of 2022. Hey Adrian, how are you? You're looking to apply for H1B visa with your current company, but you're also looking at potentially starting a new job with another company. Could I switch jobs immediately if I got selected? No, because your sponsoring employer, well, it depends. If the other company is going to sponsor you, yes. But if you're trying to stay with your current employer, they sponsor you and you're selected, they would need to file for um, uh, the petition in its entirety. It would need to be approved, and then begin effective date of October 1st. You'd need to work for at least 30 days at a minimum and have some sort of pay stub that you could provide before you'd be able to change employers. So best case scenario for you is if the other company that you want to switch to, they would need to sponsor you, would be how I would handle that. If that's really the approach that you want to take. Otherwise, if your current employer sponsors you, they're selected, you need to have them submit the petition, get approval, and continue to work for them for a minimum period of time. Generally, that's 1 to 2 months at minimum with a pay stub before transferring. And as a follow-up, I know I would need to apply for H1B transfer. Could I do it anytime if I'm selected in the lottery? If I'm not selected, could I still change to a different employer? Yes, you cannot transfer at any time. The H1B has to be active, and you have to be working and being paid by the sponsoring employer. It just doesn't, it's not transferable like that. If you're not selected, you can change to a different employer at any time. But again, if we go back and look at what's happened over the last couple of years, we've had a second lottery in 2020. We've had a second and third lottery this year for fiscal year 2022. Again, and with a fourth still being a possibility. So if you did leave them, you would forego that option. So if I'm you right now, if you are going to make this move, you do have time. I'd change to the employer that you want to go to, but you need to be direct with them and let them know they're going to have to sponsor you. If they're not willing to do that, then I would stay put. Hey Adarsh, how are you? Any major changes, enhancements, upcoming to the H1B lottery? No, I did a video last week called H1B Lottery 2023, What You Need to Know, where I covered that. And there aren't a whole lot of changes, to be honest with you. $10 non-refundable registration fee. It looks like the beginning of March, either March 1st or March 7th, it's going to open up. And again, I'm expecting over 300,000 applications for those 85,000 slots. I do expect a subsequent second lottery, at least for fiscal year 2023. We'll see if something outside of that is right or not. Will be interesting to see what the numbers look like, but I think demand continues to be there. Last year, the number was a little bit above 308,000 total. Uh, so with that, the question is, do we see 310, 315 this year? I believe we're going to see well over 300. So no changes. Electronic selection, random electronic selection. What they'll do is they'll open a window either March 1st or March 7th. They're going to close that possibly March 25th. They'll notify individuals that they've been selected, and then the employer will begin able to begin filing their paper petition, most likely either April 1st or April 4th. On my prediction video, I hinted at April, May, EB2 slowdown. Do you have any further updates? No, this is a rumor that's been building a little bit. Um, I think a lot of people tend to believe that if that is going to happen, retrogression in EB2 or slowdown, if you will, that it'll happen in the last quarter. So July, August, September. I'm more of the inclination just based on some of the rumors that I've been hearing. And then the corrective action designation that we saw in the EB4s, where the number requests are outweighing the number allocation. It feels to me like when we looked at the EB2 numbers, and one of the last few chats with Charlie, he shared the slides that talked about the number demand and the number allocation. EB2 was slightly above that, below that threshold. EB3 was way above it. So that's why you've seen EB3 and the pause that it's had. A lot of that having to do with the downgrades, right? But again, now when we look at what's going on, there aren't as many upgrades occurring as I think that was initially predicted. So I don't want to go on record and say there's absolutely going to be retrogression in April or May, but I do feel like the movement that we've been seeing here, 177 days, I believe, for EB2 for February. I don't think we're going to see that in April or May. Although if we go back to May of last year, that's when we really began to see a lot of the rapid forward movement. That was an attempt to utilize full numbers, but unfortunately, USCIS proved they can only process about 170 plus thousand green cards in a given year. So I don't think that we'll see that number. But again, I do believe there is a possibility of a slowdown. I don't want to go officially on record and say that retrogression is absolutely happening because these things are so fluid. Most of the other folks out there that talk about this tend to believe that may happen in July, August, or September. I, on the other hand, was feeling like there could be a possibility of the upgrade impact and what that would look like, and those numbers starting to hit in April or May. But great question. Thank you so much for your support. Addressing duplicate applications, Adarsh, and you're referring to the H1B lottery, the electronic selection. No, that's the thing. As I said in my video on H1B lottery, what you need to know. The biggest thing here is that employers can only submit a candidate into the electronic portal once. Okay. However, candidates can have as many employers as they want submit their name into the portal. So it gives the candidate the option, but the biggest thing is once selected, if the employer moves forward with the paper app petition, that is then if you have a duplicate paper petition, duplicate selection, you can't have um, two paper petitions submitted on your behalf. So I think that's the biggest thing here to be aware of, is that right? Is you can have multiple employers put your name in the portal, but at the end of the day, if you're selected by multiple employers, only one of them can submit your paper petition. Otherwise, if there are multiples, all will be rejected. That's been my understanding of how the process has worked. If we look at the thing that really stands out when we look at when I talked about the possibility of there being a fourth lottery, right? And what that looks like, and we look at some of the response rates from selection, the application rate. And those numbers, were somewhere around 70% for round one and 40% for round two. That's pretty staggering numbers, if you think about it. So that means that uh, literally 40%, meaning 4 out of every 10 selections that were made, only four were responding via a paper application. Whereas in round one, that number was 70%. I'm really interested to see what the response rate on the third lottery looks like. It will be interesting to see if we do have a fourth lottery. Again, the electronic selection and the electronic portal, it saved USCIS millions because they're not having to return all of these paper applications and checks that weren't cashed. But what it has created is a flooding of the system. multiple individuals or individuals being sponsored, across the board, having multiple companies submit their name into the portal. So it feels like it's inflating the numbers, to an extent. But yeah, hey, thanks. No problem. I really appreciate you taking the time to jump in here today, and asking questions. I have a couple more minutes here. If anyone else has any questions or comments, wanted to just take a few minutes here today to jump into to live stream and talk about Biden's immigration changes for 2022, which to me sound like nothing new. A lot of what we heard via the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021, and again, all of this is per the Pew Research article that I shared. um it again, it feels like to me they want to continue to talk about some ideas and changes, but we just don't see any activity behind them. um Personally, for the most part. Also covered, H1B passive income, and what that looks like. A little bit about rental properties via Airbnb and Turo, the car renting service. The reminder there is to make sure that isn't considered or works its way to become productive income. Adrian, you had another question. When you say it is the latest I could start working for my new company this year to make sure the company still has time to apply for my H1B, I would think probably mid February. So if you started working for them sometime in the next month, if they have an immigration attorney that they work with, they should be able to, if they have a my USCIS account, and are willing to pay the $10 non-refundable fee, they should be able to get you in by the beginning of March. So yeah, I think if we want an exact date, looking at February. Um, I'd say you would need to have started working for them by Valentine's Day, February 14th. I think that would be a good reference point for you, to make sure that the new employer has 2 weeks to get with an immigration attorney, get the fees, and make sure that you get submitted into the portal. Now that'd be cutting it close, but again, we're talking about, that's what, 4 weeks away, I believe. It's not quite a full 30 days. That date, you're probably 27, 26 days or so. So if you're in final stages and you've got to turn in 2 weeks notice, I mean, you're right in that window right now. um Otherwise, if you do decide to join another company, current employer sponsors you, you'd have to be working for them. You can't transfer it if you're selected. Okay. So I hope that helps you, Adrian. All right. Well, wanted to say thank you to everyone who took time to put questions in here today. Adrian, SNK, Sweet Seller, um, Ashish, Ardash, thank you for all jumping in here. Really appreciate you guys taking the time to join my stream and post comments in the chat. If you are watching this at a later date, of course, you can check out the H1BGuy.com. You can reach out to me and contact me directly. If you need time or you need my opinion, you can set up a time via my Calendly to speak with me directly. I love the opportunity to work with you and provide any guidance that I may be able to, based on my, gosh, 18 years now in staffing and work authorization. It's pretty crazy when I put it out there like that. But definitely working on some new things. I'm working on a piece around some H1B data, that I've been kind of combing through. So some wage data, some organizational numbers, I think that are pretty interesting. I don't know when I'm going to put that out, but hopefully that'll be sometime in the next few weeks. Um, but with that being said, I just wanted to remind everyone that today's live stream was brought to you by Syndesis and Path to Canada. The ideal Plan B for high skilled immigrants currently located in the U.S. whose status may be uncertain. If you're facing an H1B denial or OPT expiration, don't get caught off guard. Make sure you have a Plan B, and Syndesis and Path to Canada are your answers. They'll gladly help you navigate the process. And if you're interested in finding out more, links can be found on my website, via the blog post of today's live stream, also in the video description here on YouTube, and also on the podcast. To find out if you qualify, use that link and someone from Syndesis or Path to Canada will be in touch. And also by PERM-ads.com, the industry leader in providing a seamless experience for employers and immigration attorneys navigating the complex PERM recruitment ad phase of the labor certification process. If you're looking to reduce your costs and overhead associated with PERM labor recruitment certification advertising, let PERM-ads.com help you. Just wanted to say thanks again to our sponsors for helping us bring these live streams to you. I wanted to thank everyone again who took time to join. If you haven't already, please make sure you like this video, subscribe to the H1B Guy channel here on YouTube, and click the bell for notifications so that you're notified anytime we post new content here to this channel. If you've made it this far, I just want to say thank you for taking the time to watch my video, join this stream, or listen to this in audio format at a future time and date. Really appreciate your support, and I cannot do it without you. I'm Robert. I'm the H1B Guy, your global source for all things H1B.